All right, what's up, everybody? We're live here, horns high, Murder Metal Mayhem. Special guest, Mr. A.R. Hayes himself. What's going on, A.R.?
Well, my friend, it's good to see you.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to say special guest. I'm trying to turn off. I'm sorry, but something just came up in my ear here.
Huh.
I have your live going on my second screen,
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
I've done
just
that
had to
before.
hear your voice twice, so
Oh,
it
boy.
came on in my ear.
Yeah, it's like a slight delay.
Well,
But I got
and you
my
can
camera up high. My laptop camera is what I use, and I had a viewer comment, hey, just a tip, raise your camera up so we're looking at you straight on. So if anybody in the chat wants to make, if you even notice that there's a difference, but if you guys like this view better than the view of it on the table, then I'd be happy to switch it. But I guess it does look more like I'm looking at you than you're looking up at me. So anyway, that's just a little change I got here in my setup, trying to get it right till I could get back out there to the studio, because I still have to handicap proof the access in and then the threshold of the door itself. And then once I get in there, it's going to be tricky because it's small. It's like 12 or 15 by about that. So it's that square. It's more rectangle, but about 12 by 15. So it's not a big space. And I got a big table in there with a bunch of stickers. Of course, heavy metal guys got to have stickers. I got stickers all over the damn place. And then, of course, you guys have seen pictures of the walls and everything. It's just nuts with all the serial killer masks. And I love being out there. I miss it so much. This is such a far cry. If I've got anybody that's new to this channel is like, wow, this guy's talking about, brutal true crime stories in a relatively calm like environment with classy paintings on the wall that my wife put up there. I don't know anything about that. I've got a blood artwork off camera here that I've had on before from an artist that paints in human blood. So not all of my artwork looks like the stuff you see here, but in the studio, it's like no holds barred. There's everything going on in there. What about you, AR? What's your setup over there?
3 snoring pit bulls that just lay behind me and chew on things. And of course, I mean, it's always great to have them around, but we have
Oh,
a
yeah.
little bit of peace. Jen leaves for work, and that's when I kind of get into my setup over here that she's created for me. And I don't have the coolness of, like your studio. I miss seeing you in your studio, and I can't wait seeing you back over there. I mean, I've
Me
always
too. I
enjoyed
can't
that,
wait.
but I have a coffee pot not too far away from me here in my little
There you go.
setup. And then, I every once in a while I gotta turn off my camera because the dogs will fart or something. I gotta do the whole gag and close my nose. But yeah, it's just always great because you and I we get to talk a lot off camera as well. For those that out there that don't know, Pete and I are very good friends off of the platform as well as on the platform.
We are.
So we spend a lot of time talking about things even more than true crime. So when we
When
get
I'm
this
having a
opportunity,
PTSD moment at 2:00 in the morning, you're my guy. Because I'm like,
well,
shit, it's midnight over there. Like he might be up, So
yeah, well, and it's always a good conversation. We have great
it is. Yeah,
conversations,
you
and
get me off that track, and then I feel much better. And I know you got a lot of medical stuff. We both have a lot of medical stuff going on, so it's nice to have somebody else to kind of reach out to, bitch to, whatever the case may be, right?
sometimes it's necessary, and it
It
keeps a
is.
little bit of the pressure off of our wives because our wives do so much and go through so much every day.
Oh my
And
God,
sometimes
yeah.
it's good to just jump on each other a little bit because, they like to see us yell. and scream at somebody other than them. So they love the friendship as well.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. I don't know what I'd be in a VA home probably if I wasn't, if Jenny wasn't here taking care of me. So it's nice that I'm able to be at home, and the VA has been so good to me. I know a lot of people complain about the VA, but man, they've been unbelievable. Paid 100% of my medical bills, which God, I don't even know how much that this last year has cost them. Multiple operations, multiple hospitalizations, just crazy. So they've been so good. They put in all the ramps I needed outside. They're going to be giving me some money to do some remodeling in the bathroom, so it's wheelchair accessible because now it's not. So it's tip of the cap to the VA. I got this mug today. It's in celebration of the Army's 250th birthday coming up on June 14th, but it's pretty badass. It looks as cool as it did in the picture, but apparently there's somewhere on here you can put your dog tags. Oh, I think I see it, which is cool. I got extra dog tags. I'll slip one in there. That'd be kind of neat.
Well,
But
I was going to make a joke and say, I got 3 dogs over here. Which tag you want? Let's cut down my issues real fast here and make this easier.
right. And then I got my Fort Hood shirt on, my first Cav Division Fort Hood. That's where I was when I was in the Army at Fort Hood, Texas, which is called something different now. But yeah, so I'm all about supporting the military and anybody, like I said, going through the VA system. If you've been shying away because you had some bad experiences, go back and see, because I've been just amazed at what they've been doing for me. I have a lady that calls me every week from my local VA just to see if there's anything I need. Anything. It's just unbelievable. It's just, I don't know what to say. But anyway, I don't want to bore you guys with that, but just thought I'd mention it. And we got a good show for you tonight, live streaming here with me and AR. I just passed 12,000 subs, so thanks to everybody out there that subscribed. And if you're not, please consider doing that before you leave. And then I'll be flashing banners up with AR Hayes's channel. I know a lot of you guys that like me like AR, and we share a lot of our audience. But if you're not familiar with the Convict's Thoughts, you make sure you go check that out and subscribe to him and give him some love there. And if you're on the replay crew, that's fine. Drop a comment below. You guys are awesome too. I get a lot of replays on these lives. So we're going to do our best to respond to your questions. Both of us are having eye problems. I know AR's is much more serious than me, but I'm going in for eye surgery June. It's just cataract, so it's a 1 day, in and out, couple hours is all it takes. And that's it. And so I'm doing that in June. They're going to do one eye then the other like they always do. So it shouldn't affect me here on the channel, but I know AR's got a lot bigger road to hoe there. AR, you want to mention anything about your situation?
Well, Tuesday I start on the left eye with the retina detachment surgeons. They're going to do some sort of laser surgery on the left eye to start. May 5th, I have cataract surgery on the right eye, which is just to start, because then I have to re-engage back with the retina surgeon for the right eye, where they're going to try to repair the detachment and also fill my eye with oil. And that should take, they're saying, anywhere between 3 and 4 months to somewhat heal.
Wow.
And then they're going to do the surgery again, which will be another 3 or 4 month healing process. And then they hope after about that the right eye should be good to go, but I will have no vision back in the right eye. The vision's permanently gone, and I'm okay with that. I'm completely okay with that. At some point, we'll return to the left eye and do a small hemorrhaging type surgery. As everybody knows, I did the injections in the eyes, so we'll do that again, and then we'll do another laser surgery on the left. And then they feel like I could get back into the sclero contacts, which is the contact with liquid in it that goes over the eye, and I should be able to get back to decent vision in the left eye. It'd be pretty normal with that.
That's
so
awesome.
That's exciting. Yeah, that's exciting. And as you know,
cataracts are brutal. I mean, in here in the house, I can't even right now. I can't see my computer screen until like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's thrown off my schedule. Anybody watching that's wondering why are my videos coming out at weird times? It's because of that. It took me 2 hours to do the thumbnail yesterday, and they usually take me about 15 minutes. So I was like, this is ridiculous. I can't work like this. And so after it gets dark, and then my wife, because she's smarter than me, put all the different things on here on dark mode, which helps having the white on black versus the other way around. Yeah. So I'm making it, but I'm going to be crawling to the finish line in June. So if you're sending me a message or in this chat, I'm going to do the very best I can to read some of these, but I'm telling you, it's going to be a struggle. But
I'm just excited I'm excited to get the process going. As you and I have talked behind the scenes, obviously, that, with the crazy stuff with my intestines and the different things of, the cancer and the things going on there. I'm ready to, as you know, I've talked about the colostomy bag and everything to where, with all the help that was generated through the GoFundMe's that people donated to for my wife and I, it really substantially helped with the initial costs of all of these visits. I don't think a lot of people understand just even the visits themselves and the initial procedures and treatments that have to be done. Getting that help just truly put me on a path to be able to focus on getting these things done. And I'm so appreciative of that. And
that's amazing, dude.
I couldn't have done it without the community and the help that people.
Community on both of our channels, just fantastic people. I mean, just
absolutely.
I had the same thing. People sending me. I had one person send me a check, which was quite a bit of more than I would expect somebody to send me, but I had a plumbing issue when I got back from the hospital, and it paid the plumbing bill, and I was like, man. That was a really well-timed, gift. So I really appreciate it too. I mean, it's nice. Absolutely. And even if you're just doing a super chat for $3, I mean, everything helps us, because it costs money to do this. Right. StreamYard has a monthly fee and all that. And of course, YouTube gets their cut. And, we put in a lot of work putting these videos out. So it is nice. So thank you. And if you're just watching, that's fine too. Appreciate that. Get it.
And I was gonna say that too, Pete. The very people that come see us every day through our videos or our lives, they come in and they communicate and they send the comments and they hit that like button. Yeah. That's worth millions of dollars to me, because not only do you bring me pride and you bring me hope every single day, because I feel like I'm a part of a family because you guys are here with me. But those likes and those comments help me get into an algorithm that allows YouTube to actually pay us, which is so nice, because I love it when people get to keep their own money in their pocket and YouTube literally puts their money to us. And that just makes it such a good feeling. So don't forget, please do it. Both for Pete and I, Unfiltered Lucky, Kiki, the people that you love and adore on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the like button. Give them a quick comment, whether it even, for me, I don't even mind if you just want to hit the emoji with the middle finger.
Yeah. You can be like, hey, I get the horns a lot in my thing.
Well, you get horns. I get one finger, and that's okay. I'm okay with that.
I had somebody every now and then gets very religious. I know there's some people that watch me that are, and I don't mean anything negative by this. But there's people that get very religious and they get upset at the whole 666 thing and the horns. And I've said it 100 times that it's a goof. Like I'm not a devil worshiper by any stretch, but people were freaking out about the horns. But the horns, I wrote a short story in one of my short story collections called Malokia. And the Malokia is an Italian thing. So if you got any Italians watching this, you know what I'm talking about. And the Malokia is like the evil eye kind of thing. And the Malokia is to ward off evil, not to entice it or salute it. It's to ward it off. So don't take it any other way than it's just a thing. It's a heavy metal thing, and I mean nothing by it in a religious sort of way at all. And I'm not saying that religion's bad. I'm just saying, throwing up some horns because I'm a heavy metal guy, and that's about all there is to that. But well, AR, I know Idaho 4 is what we're here to talk about. That's what these guys want to hear. So why don't we give them some red meat? And we were going to talk about Ann Taylor bringing up we're going to talk about your trip to Boise. So if you're here for that, we are going to do that. But we wanted to open up with another concept and kind of work our way to that. But Ann Taylor in the hearing bringing up this potential alternate theory and that she had working on some leads. So what do you know about all that, AR?
I think it's about damn time a real investigation is taking place.
Oh my God, for real, man. That's ridiculous.
I mean, I think all of us have been pounding our fists on the table saying, why is Brian Koberger legitimately the only person we feel as though has been investigated when there are so many other reasons to investigate even deeper? And I'm going to let you go ahead and respond to that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't think it was going to take up the whole screen.
That's okay.
I'm working on the name here because my eyes are terrible. Shorn Liberty did a $10 super chat. Thank you very much. And it says if Brian is not guilty.
Do you want me to read it for you?
Can you? I'm struggling.
Yeah, let me read it for you. So if Brian Koberger is not guilty, why hasn't a big defense attorney joined his team pro bono, aka like Mark Garriegos from the Scott Peterson, Mendez, Michael Jackson case, Jose Baez, Casey Anthony? Huge publicity, consequential. And, Pete, that's a great question, but I think people need to realize no attorney has to join any defense attorney or defense team pro bono. And I don't think this is a good case to do that. I don't think that legitimately the way that Idaho is structured in the way they prosecute cases, this would be one that if I was a high profile case, I would steer away from this one. Also because, a lot of things like we're going to talk about tonight, the investigation is so shoddy in this case. Can you imagine how much money a defense attorney would have to dump into reinvestigating this?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of costs involved. And of course, they do it for the publicity. I entertained that early on when people brought up this with me and myself. I mean, I've wondered it too, why you didn't get even those two attorneys in Delphi, Baldwin and Rosie, holy crap. I mean, those guys were like pit bulls on a pork chop. I mean, they were like all over it. And I mean, they were no names. I mean, I never heard of them before, but man, they went at that thing like full bore, So even that kind of an attorney, not a big name, but an attorney that's going to go after it, And in that trial, of course, they didn't let him bring in the alternate theories. So do you think that's even going to be let in? I mean, is she going to have enough quote unquote receipts to make that become part of the trial? Do you think?
And I think that's a legitimate reason why the conversation, the topic you and I are discussing tonight is so important, is because we have to separate out the difference between Brian Koberger's trying to prove that he didn't commit the crime, which
Right.
would mean that because if he's saying he didn't do it, that means somebody else did, which would be an alternative perp. But that's not an actual alternative perp defense. That's an I did not do it defense.
Right.
Whereas on the opposite side of that, if Brian Koberger and his defense team could legitimately dig up enough evidence, because as you and I both know, they made the clear statement they are chasing a lead right now. They're on to something.
Right.
And they have an expert willing to, it sounds like, testify on the stand at the trial that he believes it's 2 perps, 2 weapons.
Do you think
minimum.
she used that same PI that went to Nevada to talk to Bethany?
You know, they've got an investigative team. All
Sure.
defenses, you know, when you build your defense team and it's heading towards trial, you put together an investigative team where you bring in people that have, you know, the experience through being either a detective, lead law enforcement agent in high profile cases that maybe are retired or they work for themselves. They've opened a private practice, and these people, you know, they get paid and they become a part of the team, and they are the actual investigators for the defense to dig up information, leads, and evidence that could potentially help their client, the defendant, prove that he's not the one. It'll be interesting to find out who they have on that team. I think it would be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, you could get some crack shot investigators to pull out some. I mean, there's got to be something there because, like you, I just don't think this guy did it, you know. And I'm impressed with the fact that he's held strong to not trying to grab a deal, at least that we've heard. You know, I mean, you would think, I mean, if you did this and you knew that they had the goods on you, and you knew the death penalty was in play, I mean, unless you're like trying to off yourself slowly and miserably, then why in the world would you do that? You know, or you know, I just don't see it, you know. Got another one here, another $10 from Shane.
Let me read it for you here, Pete.
Yeah, is that the same person that did the other one? I think
it is. Shane Liberty, we definitely appreciate you. That's very gracious of you. And I know Pete definitely is very fortunate to have you as a part of the community here. One more question, Pete. Heroic in illness and recovery, just meeting AR. How can someone have an alibi if single, living alone, and crime at night? If you go to sleep, who sees, don't understand Idaho law?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I've always wondered that too. Like, I used to do a lot of traveling for work before when I was working, and I stayed at hotels all the time. And I thought, what would happen? I know now cameras are a big thing now, but like this would have been before all that. What would happen if some kind of crime happened nearby a hotel I was staying at? And I mean, who's going to vouch for me sleeping in my hotel room? I mean, honestly, I mean, or a single person that goes home, you know, to their apartment or house at the end of the day, and they eat at home, they watch a little TV, they crash like the rest of the world. I mean, who's vouching for that? You know, so I would agree. I mean, I don't know what you would do. I mean, if he was out driving around, then that's his alibi. He's out driving around. I mean, what is he going to get? Like earthworms, you know, calling in a description of what he looked like, or owls that are out at night. I mean, I just don't understand what they expect the guy to do. You know, if he said he was out driving and their laws are goofy, where you got to provide your alibi and proof, and there's a bunch of alibis. I mean, what about Showalter? You know, driving 5 hours to his family's hunting cabin, supposedly or allegedly, right after it happened, out all night drinking, hops in his car, drives 5 hours to a hunting cabin. Is that believable? And if it is believable, why is that any better than Brian's alibi of driving around? I mean, they got Showalter on video? I bet they do. He would have had to stop and get gas probably. So there probably was. I'm sure they didn't pursue it, but I'm sure there was a video they could have got on a typical path to wherever he went. And they probably could have got some kind of video if he really went. And, the whole rumors that he went to Africa, I'm sure you could dig up evidence of that. You got airport cameras and you would know when flights were going out, that sort of thing. But I've heard that wasn't true. I don't know. What do but I don't know. I don't know what kind of alibi you can give in a case like that. I mean, what do you think, man? Driving around?
Well, that's where I think I've been pretty outspoken about this, Pete, in regards to Brian Koberger's not going to utilize an alibi defense in this case. He doesn't have the ability to do it, and his defense team's not going to push for that. That's not a part of the way they're going to defend Brian Koberger. Now, Idaho does kind of have this strange way where they got the 10-day blah, 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 and they want all this proof of an alibi. But I'm going to tell you, in investigations in many states, they expect to have a lot of proof of alibi. They really do. They're not just going to take your word for it. Then they're not going to go to your wife who could, say, yep, that's his alibi. I stand by it. They got to be able to verify these things. So that's not something that's unusual or new. The only reason why we're not seeing other people's alibi or how they approached them is because, unfortunately, the investigation wasn't very showing into those people. So we don't know details of how they were investigated, what questions were asked of them. But also they weren't arrested. They didn't become the defendant. They're not put on the spot in the courtroom. I think this is, in my opinion, Pete, the way the prosecution is pushing this alibi, knowledgeably knowing the kid's already said he was out driving around. He doesn't have a lot of friends. It was in the middle of the night, whatever it might be. They already know this, all right? They're just pushing to try to box this kid in, and they're doing that through the steps and the procedures of the court to make this judge force Brian Koberger to potentially have to take the stand. And I think that's a piss poor way to push to get someone found guilty. Prove it through evidence. Don't prove it through forcing somebody to have to take the stand.
Right. Yeah. So if he doesn't have an alibi defense, then how does that impact what happens? And I'm not familiar with it.
Well, and they made the clear statement, the way that Brian Koberger is going to prove that he did not commit this crime or was potentially not even at the crime scene or in the area is through the expert testimony that will be demonstrated. And of course, they're going to cross-examine those experts and call their own experts to the stand to potentially prove Brian Koberger was not even in the area. Let the experts battle it out. Let the witnesses battle it out. Let the cross-examination happen. Don't put your client, don't put Brian Koberger in danger's way of having to get on that stand where nerves take over, your gut gets wrenched, and you could say something that you mean to say one way and it comes out a different way, and cross-examination nails you. So just be patient. You got to be patient in that situation.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I know that, it's just every way you turn in this case, there's something else. There's something else to think about. And I know, we've all been wondering, I did a video on it. Who could these potential, is it going to be one of these goofballs that we've talked about? Oh, I know I have. I don't know about you as much, but, the Showalter, the Jack Decor, the Jack, all these different 3 Jacks and a Jake and is like a full house over there. But all kinds of people with a lot of the things that put somebody on the radar, right? Accessibility, could they have done it? Yeah, they could have. Proximity to the victim. They're all live right around the same area. Within walking distance, like moments. All these people and a motive. Jack probably more than any of them with the recent breakup, but that's amazing that they were cleared within a few days. I would think this would take, investigators weeks put them in a damn jail cell until they figure out what's going on, because, I would think, a lawyer, of course, could have got him out, but still, I mean, hold them accountable until you're sure that there's nothing there before you just let them run wild. I mean, everybody left the area but the guy that they've gotten in jail right now. I mean, Brian was still there. He wasn't running anywhere. The next day he's going to get, coffee and a haircut or whatever he was doing, so it just doesn't make any sense. You'd think he would have been the one hightailing it out of there.
You would think so, but I think this latest development in the courtroom is going to provide a vision into how the defense is potentially going to pursue investigating alternative perps. And by making the statement, 2 people,
Right.
2 weapons, now what you've got to look for, you got to step away from the actual crime scene for a minute. Step away from that for a moment. And now you got to look at who within the realm of this home has a companionship with somebody that could make 2 perps and make it work together. Now you're looking, right. So now you're looking for connections, not only to victims, but now you're looking for connections between people.
The 2. Right.
And I hate to say it. I mean, you could start to pair up a lot of them. You can look over at, the Davids. There's a companionship.
To me, that's the number one. That's the
you can look over at the ex-boyfriend and his roommate, Adam and Jack. There's a connection, right?
And there's Demetrius.
Sure. There's now we can start formulating these different avenues that you can do what's called an investigation. And that's what I'm excited to see. If the defense has enough time, Pete, because that's going to be the restriction of all of this, right, is literally the time frame, because we're coming up on pre-trial now. We're getting into the jury selection, questionnaires, and all of this stuff. So the time is on, but that doesn't mean it's done and over, even if it goes to trial, because this defense team's going to work through the night and into the appeals process if he is found guilty. And remember, there are stipulations. I know everybody says, well, the defense has to turn over all the evidence to the prosecution before this goes to trial, because we heard Bill Thompson screaming that. We heard him screaming that. Look, when new evidence is found, it can be turned in and turned over the day of or during the trial, as long as it's deemed new found evidence. I think this trial gets halted. I think we hit the pause button here. And I know people don't want to hear that. I know that's not something none of us are jumping up and down about that idea, because we want to know what the hell happened. Right. But I think
anybody that watched My Cousin Vinny would know that you're right with what you just said. Yep. They had that evidence at the end, right? That they had the car and the other vehicle and the 2 guys that did it with the gun. So I mean, evidence comes in when it comes in. It could be right in the middle of it.
The investigation into this case will not end when a verdict of this trial is given. This investigation is going to continue behind the scenes, because they got to ensure that it's proper. And then we all know the appeals process in this case, if there's a guilty verdict, the appeals process is ongoing, especially if it's a death penalty case. He's automatically got appeals, whereas if it wasn't a death penalty case, it's not as automatic. So, right. This is going to go on and on and on. And let me tell you, I'm going to bring up just one moment of the Boise trip for me that really hit home with me while I was in that courtroom. Man, I would take Massoff as my lawyer in any case at any point in time. The emotion that woman, that passion she has, the professional presence. And let me tell you, I haven't seen, when people say, why hasn't a big pro bono lawyer come in? They got Massoff. They don't need that big pro bono lawyer. People need to understand Massoff is a private lawyer.
Right.
She's not just a nobody. She is a
Right.
private lawyer. Wait till trial. She's gonna turn into your pro bono big name. Wish I had that lawyer on my case. You're gonna see it. I see it
Right.
in her. I sat
Right.
behind him. Pete, I was 15 feet away. I could
Wow.
hear their little conversations going on at the table. That's how close I was. I could
That's
hear them talking at the defense table. Man,
Did you
I
give
take
him
her.
any? Did you give him any Convict's Thoughts merchandise? I mean, I'd have thrown
You
him a
know,
T-shirt or something, maybe.
I handed out a couple of hats and stuff outside the courtroom. I didn't do anything, with it. I was gonna toss, Ann Taylor and Massoff and Mick and Marlowe. Like, here's some Convicts Thoughts, YouTube channel merchandise. Please follow me. But I kind
Right?
of thought Brian Koberger might be upset that I took up a little of his conversation time, so I held off.
Probably. Probably. That's funny. Well, I know you and I were talking about a very out there theory, I would say, that I had kind of dreamed up. And we were talking about it before we went live, and we decided we were going to talk about it here. But I think that there's a distinct possibility. I mean, this case is so weird that if you need to suspend your beliefs here for a moment while I roll this out, because I know, like, when I was doing some of my other theories, people got all over the top with it. Just hear me out. What if the 4 o'clock time frame and everything we've been told about this is all made up? What if these crimes happen in the early morning hours? Maybe because we heard that there was some early talk of the fact that they were drugged. Maybe they were drugged, or maybe they were just passed out, and that's how they were awakened. Was that? I don't know. But being passed out would give whoever was doing this more control over the situation, because they're not going to be fighting back. And I know Dylan, we don't believe her for a lick, but she's claiming she saw a fireman in the hallway. What if that was somebody with a gas mask? I used to wear one of those in the Army. What if that was somebody with a gas mask there to put them to sleep for a few hours so that the crew could come in? And if all the times are shifted, that's going to screw up time of death, all of this stuff, and would also delay the fact that that house would have smelled like the worst smell you'd ever smelled at noon, 8 hours later, as compared to, say, only 2 or 3 hours later. If the perps were smart and knew enough about how time of death is determined with body temperature, they could have cranked the heat up in that house, and that's going to speed it up. Or they could have cranked it down and slowed it down, like Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman, used to do. That's how he got his nickname, was putting his victims on ice for a few days and throwing off investigators. So it's a thing. And then that might explain some of the goofy stuff. But what if all those people called to the house were the people they called to the house to do this? Or were there right after it happened as compared to hours after it happened? It would explain what they were doing for 8 hours, because we've all wondered, what the hell were they doing? Cleaning? I mean, I don't know how much cleaning you possibly do, and I don't know what you would clean anyway, short of your own footprints and any of that kind of stuff. But I can't imagine that would take 8 hours to do that. But and I don't know how skilled they would have been at that, because that's certainly a thing. And there was that one latent footprint by Dylan's door, certainly. But other than that, there's nothing there. I mean, they wiped that place clean like a pro. But what do you think, AR? I mean, I know that's goofy, but I mean, it's certainly possible, right?
Well, and I'll throw you just this little bone before I kind of give you my opinion. One of the biggest debates from the moment that this case broke was timeline.
Right.
Do you agree? I mean, even
Yeah.
the law enforcement changed it through the initial stages of this investigation. They changed that timeline numerous times. And
Well,
look,
Dylan said it in the 911 call, 4 a.m., so,
right,
but it was originally 3. It was what Kathy Mabbitt said.
right. I personally have never trusted this timeline for anything. And now it's become quite clear this timeline is built upon a highly intoxicated young lady that doesn't know whether she was in fantasy world or whether she was in the
Right.
real world. She just knew how to get on and check her job, applications on
Right.
Indeed. I mean, that's how
Well, see,
real,
I
I guess.
wondered about the Indeed thing. Somebody brought this up in my comments, which is very smart. So you guys watching these, so damn smart. But they said that Indeed is like LinkedIn, where you could message people through it. So what if there was somebody she was communicating with that she didn't want anybody to know who it was or have a trail for it, and was doing it through Indeed, like terrorists do with a common email address? They save stuff in the drafts and they read it, and that's how they avoid getting caught, by not sending it out. It's a thought, but it could have also been a mistake. She could have hit that by mistake, in her frozen shock phase and all. But who knows, right? But I agree, dude. Hanging the entire case, the entire thing, on the word of that woman is, to me, irresponsible at best. Irresponsible. How in the world are you going to say that she's credible as much as she claims she drank? So either she drank that much legit and was completely out of her damn mind. How she wasn't getting her stomach pumped at the hospital is another story. Or she's full of crap and she wanted everybody to think she was like that drunk, because that was the story they came up with to avoid her getting involved. So I think that's the perfect cover for Dylan and Bethany, somehow spared from the blade, and they were both passed out drunk and just happened to wake up at 10:30, 11 o'clock to the house full of people, and oh my God, that's what we saw. That could have been their role, is to play the dumb, I wasn't, now why they were texting each other and didn't think, I mean, are they that dumb that they didn't think that would get found out? But apparently not, because they were doing it. But to me, that's the perfect alibi, right? I'm so drunk. I mean, if you told somebody you drank that much, they're not expecting you to pick up a piece of paper, let alone go through in a Rambo style bloodbath.
Well, my opinion, if in most cases somebody comes to the table and claims to have drank as much as what they say Dylan did, that's a way to say, I'm not your witness. You don't want to put me on the stand. You don't want me to be a part of this case because
Right,
I just told you I'm incapable of giving you the answers you're looking for. And
right,
in most cases, I believe that removes the person from any creditable testimony possible. And I think that was the
agreed.
attempt. I mean, I'm not saying that's the way that actually is, but she went through 4 interrogations at the
Right,
minimum. I mean, there could have potentially been more, and we just don't know of more. We know
right,
of 4, and I'm telling you, I've seen it before where investigators, if they don't feel as though you're creditable or you have anything of value that you could add to their prosecution of somebody, they discard you immediately.
right.
Now, is she literally the only link that could put Brian Koberger inside this home? Is that why they feel like this could work? Because there's just no way a defense attorney can't make her look horribly bad on the stand.
Oh, she's going
Horribly
to be
bad.
desecrated, and deservedly so. I mean, she's going to be just annihilated on the stand. I'm not seeing it either. I don't see what the difference is if you said somebody was blind and they said that they thought they felt the presence of someone in the hallway. I mean, somebody blind would have more senses about them than as drunk as she claims she was. If you ask me, she wasn't that drunk. I'm not saying she wasn't a little buzzed up, but I think if she was involved in this thing, that was her drug, and she was amped up beyond belief because of what was about ready to happen. So I'm not seeing that she was drunk. I think that was the cover story that they wanted to tell the police so they wouldn't go any further investigating the two of them and would avoid her having to get up on the witness stand because she was inebriated. So maybe the cops, just for lack of evidence, figured they would just roll the dice with her. I don't know, but to me, it's crazy. I mean, I don't think they should,
Well,
put that much in her. That's for
I
sure.
believe law enforcement didn't think she would get put on the stand. I think the prosecution is making that because they're even heart and soul filing motions to get what she had to say in. And I think that's ridiculous. I just, and I made it. I was live last night with Kiki, Miss Swamp Rose, and she's she's one of my mods. She's in here. Big fan of yours as well. So I want to say hi to her.
I like that live. You guys are good together. That was a good one. I don't have hair like her though, AR. I can't play with my hair. I mean, Kiki, I could try. I've got like some nubs of hair up here I could try, but maybe with my beard, I don't know. But
you just
but
never
I was
know,
watching you guys last night. That was good stuff.
But one of the things, and I'm sure you probably caught it, I made a very bold, I guess, opinionated statement, and I have to be careful with it, but I made a very bold, opinionated statement. There's only certain ways you can look at a perpetrator of a crime walking directly past a female that came out of a room that most likely was intoxicated. That girl's not going to have the moving capabilities to stay out of view and out of vision, and she's probably going to make some noise, and she's going to get right in the way.
Right.
When a perpetrator walks right by you and walks out of the house and doesn't harm you in any way, to me, a person that's been around crime, I look right at that and I say you're involved. So when an investigation now, and ladies and gentlemen, there's no doubt this investigation is happening. It's being spoken upon in the very courtroom with a judge that, if this was not something serious, would have shut that down. Look at Hitler. He would have shut this down if this wasn't real and true.
True.
So an alternative suspect scenario.
Wow.
Like I said, this is a bold statement, and people may not like me for it, but I'm going to make it because this is the way I feel. One of the alternative perps that is being investigated is Dylan.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt
it. I'm not saying she's the committer, but alternative perp scenarios typically mean there are other people involved that played roles in the crime. And that's why these investigations need to be done properly. Take your time. I mean, think about this too, Pete. In most higher profile cases like this one, do you know of many that if the perpetrator was not caught red-handed committing the crime, that was solved in a couple of weeks when it comes back to try to figure out DNA evidence? To me, I've seen many that take years.
Right.
And you're telling me this one took 30 days or less?
Yeah, and answer me this, AR. Answer me this. We heard that in one of those 4 interrogations, interviews, whatever you want to call it, with Dylan and most likely what's the dude from Idaho State, Tollison,
yeah.
Tollison, yeah, that dude.
Yeah, the one that interrogates everybody improperly.
Yeah, Dr. Moore. If you don't know about the Dr. Moore case, you need to Google it. Dr. Moore, Bonners Ferry, Idaho. Yeah, you'd be shocked. I've done videos on it. But anyway, with those interviews going on, and they were planted, it came out in court. So this isn't just some wild theory. It came out in court that she was suggested the eyebrows and all this stuff. After multiple times of saying, I didn't see anything, then all of a sudden that crap starts going on. And then they showed her a picture of a balaclava and then told her to draw it. So it wasn't like she drew it from memory, but yet that's what they're trying to make you think. So it's a total charade here. But how would they have known about the bushy eyebrows in the early days of the investigation if we're to believe that Kohberger's name didn't come up to them till later on? Why would they have even suggested bushy eyebrows? I mean, seriously. And even on the subject of bushy eyebrows, how much more ridiculous of a description could you ask for than what did their eyebrows look like? I mean, seriously, I know that's claims, if we're to believe what she said, that's what she saw, but still, I mean, it's just ridiculous. I don't even think the guy's got that bushy of an eyebrow to make a point of it. And if you're going to make a point of it, I see this all the time in the comments. Look at Saeed on that Banfield. Looks like he's got a Groucho Marx costume on with the eyebrows. So that would be somebody who you'd go, holy crap, like this dude had some really crazy eyebrows. Not Brian Kohberger, not to hang your hat on it. And it's just so ridiculous. Eyes would have been a more accurate description. I mean, something else. A limp, I mean, anything other than their eyebrows. To me, that's just odd. What do you think?
Yeah, and to go with that, what I think is odd is you asked this young lady to take a pencil into her hand and a piece of paper and draw a ski mask. Why don't you actually have one of the professional artists that come in that do composite drawings and have Dylan sit down with them and create a sketch of the actual perp of the crime? I mean, if you look over at the Delphi case, they had 3 different drawn composites, and I get it, that creates, but at least they attempted to do it. Where in this case do we see anybody sitting down with Dylan, who supposedly is the one person that saw the perpetrator walking through the house, that even, I mean, they're saying was in a fireman outfit and carrying a vacuum and doing why not do a composite sketch?
Right. You could get something out of it. You could get something out of a composite sketch with her. I mean, she, like you said, she claims a fireman and a carrying a vacuum. You could have had somebody draw that and tried to dial in what did the vacuum look like. You know, could it have been a SCBA, you know, on their back with the gas, you know, being administered like they do, you know, during prison riots, you know, or any kind of mass riot, they put gas in. I mean, there's all kinds of gas. I was in the Army and I saw, you know, mustard gas and CS gas and all this stuff. So I don't know. I mean, saw somebody in the comments a couple weeks ago asking about this, and I thought it just stuck with me. And now I'm going to be doing a video on this probably this weekend, but I mean, tomorrow I got one coming out about the eyebrow thing. I mean, I would like to know, how did they know about that the person they were going to arrest had bushy eyebrows if he wasn't known to them at that time? So that leads me to believe that Kohberger was the suspect before the crime even started, which of course many people have speculated. And I know you've done, you know, we've talked about this type of stuff before, but it makes you wonder. I mean, why would you give that description out if you didn't know who Kohberger was at the time?
And I think that's what's so frustrating for the common sense, you know, looking at a crime like this. Okay. So there's opinions, there's theories, and then you always try to combine everything back into a common sense way of trying to fit everything together. And in a case like this, every time that you try to fit something in together, it doesn't make sense. And then you try to add something together and it doesn't make sense. And I had a good time last night on the live with Swamp because I was able to, you know, good questions were rolling about, you know, how does a multi-perp learn the house and this and that. And I went through a full description based
that
on
was
my
interesting
experience.
the way you did that.
and I think one thing you're giving a little ideas of some content you're going to put out. I'm going to revisit the multi-perp capability of working through a crime scene like this. I'm going to utilize a little bit of experience of, how did I learn about houses? What did I utilize to prepare myself going into places that I didn't really know the layout of? And look, ladies and gentlemen, I know today everybody says, well, you could just look online and get a floor plan and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's possibly true. Back in my day, I couldn't do that. Like I had to actually have knowledge of how to do this. So I've learned a way. And I've had people reach out to me that say, hey, look, I'm a home inspector. I do this. And
I
your
used to do
presentation.
inspections and your layout ideas and how the sliding glass door is always off the kitchen. That's dead on. I used to have to go in dilapidated housing before they tore it down to deem it safe to tear down with environmental issues. And we had to go in these places pitch black, no electricity, holes in the floor, rats as big as dogs. Yep. I mean, some gnarly stuff. So, I mean, I've been in places like that where you are feeling the walls to try to open up some windows because they're usually boarded up to get some light in there so you can see, but very dangerous type environments. But yeah, I mean that your description in that live was good, I thought.
Well, I appreciate that. But I mean, at the end of the day, the number one thing, and sometimes I wish investigators would come not to try to get people to tell on other people, but come to an ex-criminal that's broken into a lot of houses or done a lot of dumb things in their life and say, hey,
right,
what's your feel for this crime scene? Like, is this seriously a crime scene that's capable of a one person just getting in and out of it? Because I'm telling you, if you take the Ted Bundy home where everybody claims he was able to get in and out with a couple of people in this blah, 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 and you compare it to this tri-level older home that's an addition built on house that this crime is in, these are two different scenes to navigate.
Yeah, that's a goofy layout. That's I've always thought the first time I saw that house, I thought that's really weird the way they built that. I mean, I've done hundreds of building inspections, millions of square feet. I've never seen anything like that before. It would be very strange to walk in there without some prior knowledge of where you were at, or
I just don't even know if
used to break it into places like you were.
Right. Do you think this house would pass all the codes? I don't think it would.
I wondered myself. I tried to look up online when they were getting ready to demo it to see if there were any environmental reports done, which there were, but they wouldn't let them out. But supposedly the only issues they found was some lead in the window caulk outside the house. So I don't know Idaho laws. I know where I am in the Midwest. Some things have to be removed prior to demolition. Some things can remain. It just depends on the rules of the state. And then if there's any local, like county, even local municipalities sometimes have their own way of doing things. So I didn't see anything on there other than that. I was really surprised, but supposedly there was asbestos in there too, which was what my specialty was. But that's where all my hair went. That's what I used to tell people, that breathing too much because I had somebody say, is that stuff really dangerous? And I said, well, if you breathe in a lot of it, you lose your hair and gain weight, and they're looking at me like they don't know whether I'm serious or not. So anyway, I would love to know what exactly did contain asbestos in there, and did they have a crew in there doing abatement prior to the demo? But even the demolition itself, where I am, those demo workers should have been wearing PPE, personal protective equipment. I didn't see any of it. I see guys standing there right by it. Nobody wearing respirators. Nobody doing any sort of, that I could see, any sort of air monitoring. And where I am, you would have had to do that during the demo, even if you removed everything, because what if there's stuff in there you didn't find? And you'd have to have people hosing it down. I really didn't see much of that. This place fell down really easy. It was built like crap, and it fell down super easy. but I didn't see any of those things that would be very commonplace here and would, in some cases, could hit, $10,000 a day type fines, serious,
Right.
fining
Well,
type. So I was surprised.
I do
Or
know
not.
Phil Biggs, who's really up to date with things, and also Catherine S. that knows the area very well. Both shared that this house, with the additions and everything, would have to fly through all the permits. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. So I appreciate them giving me that information,
Yeah.
and that helps a lot. But I will tell you this from personal experience with a floor plan like this, for a single individual that. I don't care if you've looked at this house for 30 days from the outside. It gives you the gist of where things are on the inside. And that tells me even more based on my experience. This is not a one perp crime. It's
Right.
not a one perp crime. The bedrooms, the way they're set up on the levels, don't allow a single perp to navigate through this home without leaving. There's two problems to this. You leave exits, no matter which floor you work on, you leave exits to others to get away. That mean you could get caught. But also in a home like this, you can get yourself boxed in very easily. People
Sure.
need to realize a single perp that walks upstairs to start this crime on the top floor has boxed themselves into anybody else that hears this crime happening.
Right.
Everybody's below you, and you only have one set of stairs to come down, or you jump off a balcony in the middle of the night
Right.
to people screaming and hollering, and the neighbors are going to catch you. You're in a bowl. You're in a bowl around this house. This doesn't set up, and most people on a night like this would have walked away from this house, having the DoorDash driver in and out of the area, having the other cars in and out. Guys, I think it's been proven. It's been proven. Suspect vehicle 1 means there's other suspect vehicles 2, 3, 4, however many they would be. That means those vehicles are all in the area relatively around the same time. You walk away from this crime. You walk away from it, you pick a different time. So it doesn't make sense. And our friend Unfiltered Lucky is in the chat. Want to say hello to him.
Nice.
And thank
What's
you for
up,
joining
Lucky?
us. It's good to see him.
Hell yeah.
He did his second members only live.
How did he do?
He said he did well. He said he's learning StreamYard. Yeah, he's learning StreamYard and having fun. So
is he the new tech guy then? Is he our new tech guy?
I think he'll even admit, and it's kind of funny because him and I and Jen is literally our savior because she spends time on the phone, and Unfiltered Lucky and I were on the phone for hours, but then I would just hand the phone to Jen and be like, you guys figure this out. I'm out of here. I'm done. So
yeah,
none
of the three of us are big tech guys. So
not at
luckily
all.
My wife is pretty good with that stuff. I know yours is. And Lucky had you guys helping him out. That's so cool because I know when I first started doing these, it was weird. You kind of walked me through it. I did some lives with you. I sent an email to Lucky to see if he's down for doing a live with me next week. So I'll keep you guys posted if we're going to do one. But what did you want to talk about? I didn't want to not cover your trip, AR. You guys made the journey to Boise, Idaho, which was a haul from Las Vegas. But what did you want to mention? I know you've been talking about this a lot. We've got about 25 minutes left, but did you have anything you wanted to talk about other than what you already did?
You know what? It was a very interesting trip, Pete, to be honest with you, because first I'll just, the feelings within the gut when you're driving up to go to court, through my past experiences, court is never the place I want to find myself at.
Right.
Like I am not a fan of courts. And legitimately, throughout the day, it didn't get better. I almost left at the third break. I told Jen, we're out of here. She says, no, really, but it's an hour and a half. What do you mean? I said, I can't take anymore. I got to go. But she talked me into staying. But one of the things that people have reached out to me and they've asked me about, and I do need to do a video about it as well, but I do want to let people know. I did see Brian Koberger from just right away distance. He was right there. I do. I think you and I talked about this, and Lucky and I talked about this. I sum people up, and it's not because I'm summing up whether I can fight you or not. This is just a part of my nature. I want to learn more about a person by their demeanor, their actions, without him knowing that he's being watched. It was very clear, Pete, when I walked into the courtroom and they're seating us, and Brian Koberger is already in the courtroom. He's standing, he's talking to his lawyers. He was very calm. He was very, very calm, very, very collected. He looked relaxed, absolutely relaxed, smiled a couple of times. So for all of this monster talk that we hear,
Right.
because people want to grab these pictures of Brian Koberger and assess what Brian Koberger is based off of these pictures. And let me tell you, the pictures are nothing like what Brian Koberger is in person. Nothing. Wow. Nothing like it. And of course, everybody's got their opinions. You know that, Pete. Everybody's got their opinions.
Yeah, of course. You said he looked good, though. Like he looked pretty healthy.
I obviously he looks like he's in jail. Right. I mean, you can't really get past that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think anybody
all that good food, all that good food in Boise.
Anybody that spends long periods of time in jail, you don't look normal, like you're just living out in society and be able to shop for your brand new Nikes and everything of that nature.
Right.
I like the fact that he's gone a little more casual. He's not in the full out suit with the tie. I think it shows more comfortability and also more confidence, the way that he's dressed. But the one thing that I really that caught me was when he was directly in front of me facing towards the judge, and I'm sitting, he is wide. His shoulders are wide. Like, I'm thinking to myself, God almighty, did I shrivel up? I'm this small? Like, really? I didn't think I was that much smaller than this guy. He's a heck of a lot bigger than I thought. I would see him. Like, I never had gauged his width.
Yeah.
I knew he had some height.
Emaciated like he did in that selfie that everybody was going
that
crazy about.
That selfie picture's fake.
That's what you were saying.
No potential way that the person in that selfie picture and Brian Koberger are the same. That picture has been manipulated. It's been manipulated to force a narrative down people's view that are watching mainstream media and to utilize him as a monster of guilt. Right. There is no possible way. And I'm telling you, Pete, I've been around the people that come in off the streets into jail that have been using a lot of narcotics, whether it be, certain types to other types. And that picture looks like someone that's been on a roll for a while, not, whatever. But also you gotta really think with the kid that was in that picture, do you think he's showing up at a PhD level, teacher's aides in the classroom, and nobody would have said anything about that? Nobody would have brought that to the dean's attention. Nobody would have drug tested that dude. Like, seriously? That's a fake picture. That doesn't even have the facial structure that Brian Koberger has. He has a strong jaw. And I'm telling you, he's got a good smile. I don't see the crazy monster look in the eyes that everybody claims. He looked right at the crowd. He looked around at the crowd. And I looked right at my wife and I said, that's a college student.
Right.
That's a college student.
Yeah, and I
And
mean the looks thing is stupid anyway because I mean we've known the Murder Metal Mayhem podcast. We've done over 250 episodes, and I've done all sorts of cases with guys that were very good looking, very normal. Nobody would know that they were doing this weird stuff behind closed doors. Gacy, Bundy. I mean, a lot of these guys are just like your guy next door, your buddy that you go out for a beer with. I mean, you don't have to look like Richard Chase or some of these real
right.
wacky Andre Chikatilo to do that kind of stuff. So to me, that whole argument is ridiculous. But what you bring up is interesting too, because everybody's making about like he was some strung out addict, rolling into Latah County Jail, and he sure as hell didn't look like an addict to me. I mean,
Well,
it's the
I
same
tell
with
you,
Murdoch. They were saying he was popping a ridiculous amount of oxys every day. That guy didn't look like he was taking handfuls of oxys. I mean, he was a pretty chubby guy, He would have looked like a strung out drug addict if he was doing that.
and I kind of portray it too when they arrested him in Pennsylvania and they took him into the Pennsylvania court. Compared, I mean, he looked large there.
Yeah.
He didn't look like he was sick from narcotics. And you
Right.
have to remember the selfie picture was literally less than 2 months from the time he was arrested in Pennsylvania. And you don't get that healthy that quick.
Right.
So
That's a good point.
for people that don't feel as though that's a manipulated picture, I'm sorry, you're missing the boat. That's a manipulated picture. And for those that want to continuously push the fact that he doesn't like women or he has something against women, I watched him interact with Massa. I
Right.
watched him interact with his female attorney, and it looked completely normal. He actually has a bond with her. So I don't know what's going to come out of trial. I don't know what other people that probably spent far more time with him than I did are going to say when they take the stand. I think it's going to be a run of the mill. We're going to run as many people up there to the stand to throw dirt on this guy. So,
Right.
I mean, I'm sure some things are going to come out that I don't know personally. I don't know everything. I just know what I saw sitting in front of me. And I'm that type of person that sums everybody up because I'm the one that went to the penitentiary at 5'8". When I walked in the doors of the penitentiary, I was 145 pounds. I
Wow.
was little. I had to know my surroundings and I had to know who was around me
Right.
as a protection to my own self. So I was very
Sure.
detail oriented and I learned to kind of find my risk factors. I guess that's a good way of saying it. Find my risk factor here. And Brian Koberger would not land on that risk factor, not anywhere within. No, he just wouldn't land on it. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't pay that guy any attention. That doesn't mean he's not something because we don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. If
But
they produce some legitimate evidence putting him there, I'm going to be talking about that too. I'm not
right,
in the cheerleader here. I'm just saying what I see. I'm not seeing it. And I did want to mention one thing, AR, with your last comment. That's the kind of stuff that you bring to the community, is that sort of experience. I mean, you're very forthcoming about what you're about. The name of your channel says it all. When I started watching you, that's why I watched you, because you were different and you were honest about you. I mean, look at all these other creators we keep hearing about, years later sometimes, that were doing all sorts of bad stuff behind, and didn't tell anybody about it. You've been forthcoming, and I know you said you get people in the comments wanting to be stupid about that past. I mean, seriously, I applaud the fact that you've risen up from the ashes and you're very successful at doing this, and you're a good person and you're my friend. And I just disgusted by anybody that would put you down in any way, because if anything, people should be looking up to you as somebody that's been through some serious shit and came on the other side standing. You were
well, and I
standing in
appreciate
Boise.
that.
You were standing up in Boise, looking good, taking us around the courthouse. You were looking all pimping with the suit on. which was awesome. My wife and I were watching it. You know, the cameras are just so shitty there. It was like blurry. Although with my eyesight, it could have been that too. But I thought I saw you guys, but I couldn't be sure. And then when I saw you outside with the suit on, I'm like, yep, that was him. So that was super cool, man. Everybody was talking about you on the big time.
Well, I definitely I learned a lesson. I won't sit in that place in the courtroom again. But, you know,
Have you gotten any offers from like Dancing with the Stars or
uh,
anything like that?
no,
No,
no.
you're in
And you
Vegas
know what?
there. You're right in the middle of showbiz. I mean, they could,
You know, the
take
funny
that.
thing is that people maybe don't know is I'm pretty to myself. I like to stay behind the scenes. I'm not, you know, and I appreciate your very kind words. I'm human. I make mistakes. Up until a couple of years ago, I was not the greatest of people. I lied, I stole, I cheated, I scammed, and I'm not one that's going to hide from the fact that it was a roller coaster of a I didn't give a what, you know,
Right.
type of lifestyle. And my wife caught me just a handful of years ago being a shady individual. And this is right before legitimately I came out on YouTube. It was literally right before it. So I was shady on, you know, other platforms. I was shady on Facebook. I lied. And my wife caught me. And she put her foot down, Pete, and she said, look, I know you're better than this. I know you're better than this. And
Right.
if you don't become the better version that I know is you, I have to leave. And that
Wow.
scared the living daylights out of me because
Sure.
this is a woman that I'd been married to at that point for 14 years.
Wow.
One that stood by me through all my time in the penitentiary. And she understands me better than anybody else. She knows I'm a behind the scenes, very quiet guy. I don't want to go out and portray myself like something I'm not. You know, when I go to court, I wear a suit. That wasn't done to be hipster of the YouTube street. I do that because I believe that's the way to go and present yourself at court. Now, my wife was a little upset because I wore one suit and we were supposed to go to court the next day. They had it scheduled, and my nicer suit, my more fashionable suit,
Oh
I had
no.
set for the second day. But
Ah.
I felt presentable while I was there, and it reminded me of my wife putting her foot down just a handful of years before that,
That's
saying,
amazing.
"If you don't become better,
Right.
I'm leaving." And that, with me looking at the courthouse, made me realize if my wife had left, I would have been back in that courthouse with new felony charges going back to the penitentiary. That's
Wow.
really legitimately the feeling I had, and I think that's why it
Right.
hit me in the gut, is because my wife is the whole reason why I can step up here and say, "Yeah, I mean, I lived life like a human being. I made my mistakes, you know, but
Right.
we're moving forward. We're moving forward.
That's
I'm willing to
awesome.
own up to it, you know, but I'm also not gonna, and I think this is a key point to make, and I know you support me in this. I'm not gonna rehash it 550 different ways and times. Like it
Right.
is what it is. Um, at some point in time when I feel comfortable, I have a lot of writing. I think you and I have discussed this because you're
We
a
have.
fabulous writer, very creative writer, and I know you've read some of mine that I've
Yeah.
given
Good
to
stuff.
you. And I have things I want to get out there. I have both the real part of life, the real version, and I've also written fiction. Um, and once maybe I get a little more settled and a little more confident in that, I can get it out there like yourself, you know, and present that. But right now, I'm just content in working within the community and doing what we do. We talk true crime, we talk about cases, we bring our opinions, and I just want to bring a realization of if I was breaking into a home, this is how I
Right.
can see this. You know, it's a
Right.
unique way of
No, it was
showcasing.
good. That was one of the first videos I watched of you. You did something like that. But yeah, I want to remind everybody, make sure you like the video. Make sure if you're not already a subscriber, you subscribe. You can subscribe to Murder Metal Mayhem and to Convict's Thoughts, both. And if you want to do a super chat or a donation, I got that at the bottom of the, or I got the other one at the bottom. I'll put that on there in case anybody wants to do that. Again, it's up to you. I'm not asking for you to do it. It's just people ask, and so you want to provide that information. But we're winding it down here about another, few minutes, 10, 15 minutes. AR, is there anything?
Can I answer
questions? You see any questions? Because I can't.
Yeah,
I can't.
I want to answer one that was asked by a fan favorite for both of us, Happy Hounds.
Okay.
She's just an amazing individual. And she asked, does it seem, or do I feel as though, from what I visually saw in the courtroom, was Brian Koberger potentially on medications? There's absolutely no doubt about it. None. There's no doubt about it. Brian Koberger takes medications.
Right.
I couldn't tell you what they are. I can't tell you what they're for. He takes medications. He had I don't remember which break it was. It might have even potentially been coming up on lunch break, and I heard the whispers that he needed to take his medication. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what he takes. But I'm glad that if he is taking
medication, right?
Well, when you're locked up, I think the majority of everybody does.
Yeah.
So another question for us is through Jen. Has anything been mentioned during court about the map that was left outside? No, I haven't. I haven't heard anything in regards to a map.
I heard a whisper about that too, but I haven't heard anything for a while.
I know it's been out and about, in the content creation world.
Right.
I personally have not heard about it in the courtroom. Were you scoping your surroundings when you went for coffee? So while we were in Boise, Pete, we got to the courtroom far too early, like far too early. My wife and I were on scene hours before because we had been told that we need to be there really early. So we legitimately got there, I think 5:15, 5:30 in the morning. Jeez. For a 9 a.m. hearing, and the courtroom didn't even open till 8. So that was pretty ridiculous that we got there so early. But we were able to meet with a couple of individuals that everybody knows from, the platform. And they first went to go get coffee while I was kind of talking with Jen. We were live in front of the courthouse. And then we found out even coffee wouldn't even open till 7 a.m. So then we all walked over to get coffee.
Earlier than the coffee. That's bad.
Yeah, no, and let me tell you, for a guy like myself that just drains coffee, I mean that's definitely.
Yeah, I love coffee.
It was a long wait, let's just say that. But we strolled over as a group at 7 a.m. and we were live when we did it. And to answer the question, was I took in the area. The Boise
really
is
nice. Look nice,
Boise
very well
beautiful.
kept and clean, and that's look good.
That's a main drag through town there, and it's heavily under construction as we speak right now. So there's a lot of construction going on. A lot of one-way streets, almost like you were in a big city that utilizes a lot of one-way streets. But in my just kind of looking at the area and taking everything in, it's so much nicer than the big cities like Vegas and the bigger cities I've been to, like Phoenix and places like that. Everybody was so nice, so kind. So they go out of their way to help you. Even the people that took, my Wendy's order when Jen's zipping through Wendy's, just the happiest people you would hear talking to you. And you don't hear that nowadays. You just don't get that. And so it was really cool.
Yeah.
as for a bad feeling walking through town, I didn't have it at all. And let me tell you, I walked past police at least 100 times while we were in town, out and about, and
Right.
I didn't have a negative feeling ever about it, except
Oh,
I had a negative feeling when we pulled into our hotel in Salt Lake City on our way, and there were like sheriffs parked in the parking lot with their lights
oh
already
shit.
going, their engines running, and there were a handful of them. And I was like, "Are we really staying here, Jen?" She's like, "Yeah." I said, "Do you think we could find a different hotel real quick?" I mean, we've got a really weird looking massage therapy place right there that doesn't look on the up and up, and we've got smoke shops, tattoo shop. I think we're in the
Oh
wrong
shit.
part of town, but
Right.
we stayed indoors for the night, of course, and
Right.
we headed out bright and early the next morning. So
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Any other questions here before we part ways?
yeah,
Anybody got any? You want to throw any up there? Again, I can't read them, but AR's
I'm
doing his
trying to
best.
look. Yeah, I'm trying to look here and see.
I need to find out what the score is of the Yankee game. I should have been watching the
Yeah,
Yankees tonight, but
yeah, if the Yankees didn't spend $4 billion a year on their team, I
uh,
just
I've been a Yankees fan since I was born. I was born in the Bronx, so I was born and lived very close to the stadium.
yeah, no, my dad, my adoptive father, was in the minor leagues at a younger age for the Yankees, well before they adopted me, obviously. But
Yeah, that's
he was
cool.
a an amazing baseball player, but he dropped playing all sports to go into the military. He went into
A lot of
the
guys do
Navy.
that. That's
Yeah, he
amazing.
went into the Navy. He put in numerous years in the Navy. He was under the water in the submarines, and
Oh
you
shit.
know, if I ever wanted to question him on whether that was the truth or not, he wouldn't hear me anyway because his ears were gone from from all
Oh
the
wow.
engines and everything. So I mean, it was pretty cool. But he was in the farm system for the Yankees years and
That is
years ago.
cool. My uncle, my grandma's brother, so my great uncle played third base for the Yankees in the farm system. Came up for like 2 or 3 games, and when somebody got hurt, he came up and then went back down. But Remigio Del Grosso, so definitely an Italian name there. AR, can you help me with this one up on the screen because I can't read it?
Yep, this is Miss Black Heart Lobster. She gave you a super sticker for $9.99. So a
Well,
big
thank
shout
you
out to
there.
her and thank you for
Yeah, thank
that.
you. That's really cool of you to do that for me. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Any other last minute ones here? AR, we got a
I'm
couple
just
3 minutes left. We usually do 90 minutes here. I don't like doing the 3 and 4 hour lives. I did do a poll on the channel. If you're still watching, go to my channel and take the poll because I'm trying to see if you guys want me to do a live this weekend. It's Easter weekend. And nothing says Easter quite like 666 seconds of murder. But I might even wear Easter bunny ears. But no, if you guys want to do a live either on Saturday or Sunday, go to the poll and let me know because I'm going to go off of that. And yeah, back when I used to play in low 12, when we do the show around Easter, I used to put the little plastic Easter eggs and I would put a note inside each one with like a prize that people would win. And then sometimes it would just say F off, or something stupid like that. And I would throw them off the stage at people. And so it was always a funny bit. We would end up doing shows around Easter every year for some reason, like Good Friday or
awesome.
something. Nothing like a death metal, thrash metal show than Easter weekend or Good Friday. But AR, what about this one here?
This is the amazing Wendy Nelligan with another super
Excellent.
sticker for $9.99. You are
Wow, thank
absolutely
you.
amazing. Wendy
Wendy's
Nelligan,
amazing.
she's been around both of us, I think, for a very long time. She may
Yeah.
even be within my first couple of hundred subscribers, and just such an amazing and
She's a
positive
nurse.
individual.
She's a nurse. So hats off to all the nurses out there. You guys are fantastic. Also, Wendy and she messaged me in the chat or in the comments. I haven't forgot, Wendy. We're going to do a video on the West Memphis 3. You're going to buck the trend. I know everybody here is all Idaho 4 crazy, but guys, we got to talk about something else sometimes. Wendy is really into the case, and I told her I would let her do that with me. So Wendy and I are going to team up and do a video on the West Memphis 3. If you're interested in the case, then you'll want to check that out. If you don't know what the heck I'm talking about, go on here on YouTube and type in West of Memphis. West of Memphis is a documentary done by Peter Jackson, the guy that did the Lord of the Rings movies, about the case. So it's very well produced. It's very legit. It costs a couple of bucks to rent it or buy it. It's well worth it. If you're familiar with the case, you'll still want to watch it if you haven't seen it, because it shows everything that happened and how they were falsely imprisoned, and then the crowd swell of support that got them out. And it's an amazing story. So Wendy and I are going to do that. So hell yeah, Wendy.
Awesome.
Thank you for the super sticker.
I'm going to dive a little bit into the Luigi Mangione case, and I'm going to share experiences into fake IDs. I'm going to share experiences of how officers can box you in a manner that gets you to give up your ID before they actually legitimately have any reason to put you under arrest, or they make you feel as though you got to answer questions when you really don't. So I'm going to dive into some of that. And then, I always appreciate people, I'm sure you do as well, to reach out to us about other cases, whether they be on a smaller scale, a bigger scale, whatever it might be. So I'm going to be diving into some of these cases that very important people have sent over to me to look at. And, I just want to let people know that I don't know how these new procedures are going to go starting next week, and how am I going to be able to be right back on the platform? We'll see. I don't know. I'm going to take it a step at a time, and Pete will keep you updated.
Yes, I will.
Unfiltered Lucky will keep you updated. And my wife will keep everybody updated. If you don't see me, I guarantee they'll have information, because I'll be talking with them every day. So or trying.
Very cool, AR. It was great to chat with you tonight. I thought this was a fantastic live. My only regret is I couldn't see the comments. Maybe with a magnifying glass later, I'll look at them. But seriously, I can't see them. But we had over 300 people in here, so that was really cool. So again, we appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you guys next time.
Have a great night. Thank you, everybody.